The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our weekly update webinar. This is Rebecca with WFIA. And as a reminder, we start this call out with everyone on mute. And when we get to the question and answer portion, I'm going to unmute everyone. So it's a really good idea, even if you think you're muted, to just check and click your mute button so that when we unmute everyone, we're not getting background noise. And with that, I will, oh, and I also want to remind you that you can use the chat button, and today we'll have some online polls, so I hope you guys are on your computer. And with that, I will hand it over to Jan.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jan G., President and CEO of the Washington Food Industry Association, the greatest association in the state. And we are so excited to welcome our guest speaker. Rick Stein is the Vice President of Fresh for the Food Marketing Institute. And I have to give a shout out to FMI. They have been having daily calls for all the state associations. So we have many resources available to us through FMI, and we exchange thoughts and ideas with other states. So they have become the go-to resource for us state associations. And of course, the whole issue of meat came up on the call yesterday, and I said, Rick, please, will you be on our call? So Rick, thanks so much. I'm going to turn this over to you.
All righty. Well, thanks, Jan. And I hope everybody out there, you, your loved ones, and your associates are staying safe. Jan had asked me to give you an update on what's happening in the meat processing world. And so there are a couple talking points that I want to address right up front. The media has definitely portrayed that we are at risk of having widespread, significant meat shortages. But as FMI has contacted most of our members, and we contact the large ones, the regional ones, and the independent operators, we have found for the most part, they have animal protein in their meat cases. They don't have all the SKUs. They don't have, it's not like it was prior to COVID-19 where everything was full. But it is still in the supply chain. It is still shipping, and you're getting the SKUs based on your collaboration, who your supplier is. You're getting some product. It may not be everything you're ordering. It may not be the packaging that you want, but it is flowing. And then I told Jan I'd give you a little background on why some of the meat companies are saying what they're saying and a little bit of what's happening behind the scenes. So what has happened in the meat plants is as the virus started to leave what I would call high density metropolitan areas. So we all heard how New York was impacted very early on, high levels of the flu incidence. We've seen the spread go into more rural areas, and a lot of these manufacturing plants are in more rural areas, less of the high density urban. And so as these plants started to have employees that were getting the virus, they started having a lot more call outs. So you had two things happening to their workforce. The workers were either sick or in fear of being sick, they were not going to come into work. Most of the meat plant processing plants are already equipped with PPE. They work with PPE in a normal circumstance. But the way a processing plant works is people are very close together. So as the processing plants had to start implementing social distancing and had less and less people coming in, they could not produce the amount of production that they normally do. and they started to fall down to the 80% or 70% production rates. So to keep it simple, if you could slaughter 100 hogs a day, you are now only slaughtering 70 hogs a day. Meanwhile, under normal times, demand might be for 90 hogs and you could slaughter 100. So you had a little bit of excess, you had 10 extra hogs. Demand's gone up to 130, 140 hogs a day. So at the same time, demand has gone to 130, 140, and the ability to process it has gone down to 70. You have a pretty big disparity between what the demand is and the capabilities. Throw on top of that, that one of the things that the meat processing plants are having to deal with is they are trying to follow the CDC guidance on manufacturing plants. So they're providing PPE, they're creating social distancing, they're doing temperature checks, all the things you as retailers are doing. They have started to put that in place over the last several weeks. However, at the community level, whether it's their local town, city, county, those health departments are putting further restrictions on them before they can open. So even if they're following the CDC guidance, they may not be following everything the local community guidance is. Hence, they've been ordered to stay closed. And the reason you're seeing the CEOs of the processing plants kind of sound the alarm is they are trying to say, if we follow CDC rules, we need to remain open, because if we don't remain open, there'll be food shortage. So I am kind of here to tell you that we are not going to run out of animal protein. You're probably not going to get all the SKUs you want. For instance, in chicken processing, they're starting to sell a lot more whole birds, and demand for whole birds is not the same as the demand for boneless, skinless chicken. But the amount of processing it takes to do boneless or skinless, they're trying to get out of that complexity and come up with packaging that they can mass produce in a quicker way to try and meet your demand. So you will see from all three of the commodities, and I'm not really getting into veal or lamb or some of the other cuts, but in your beef and your poultry and your pork, you're just not going to see all the SKUs you used to see. And there will be periodic shortages based on who your collaboration is. We have some members that have collaborations with plants that have not had problems, and they have told me that they're getting their full supply. So you got to remember, when a plant closes down, they have a supply chain, they have a base of customers that they're shipping to. And if you're impacted by that particular plant, you're going to feel more pain than a retailer who's not impacted by that plant. The other thing I wanted to make you aware while I'm on the call is FMI, and I think Jan has the link that she can send to you, but we've done a lot of work with surveying what we call spot polls. We've done it like 3 or 4 weeks in a row, asking consumers questions about their shopping behavior during this COVID-19 timeframe. And we've learned a lot about shoppers on where they're going, how they're shopping, who they're shopping with. We've kind of explored their perceptions of how food retailers are responding. We've gotten an understanding of what they expect from food retailers. And all of this is in our Shopper Trends Report. We also plan on doing a webinar on May 7th to share that information. So Jan has all that information that she can share with you, the links to our website, along with the link to sign up for the webinar. I hopefully have explained the complexity of the meat issue, processing plant issue with you. In order, they need to stay open, and they can't transfer animals. Like an animal goes into a certain amount of shock every time they're going through transportation. So anytime they have to move an animal beyond the radius in which it's safe to travel, they just don't do it. which means the animals are backing up in the pens, and it's becoming much more expensive for the farmers to keep those cattle and pigs and chickens going. So that's why they're looking for the government. And I think you saw probably a week ago or last weekend, the government allotted $19 billion to help agriculture. And I believe 9.6 billion of that was going to go to the animal livestock industry. So we're hoping to help these farmers stay in business because it costs them a lot to raise the animal and feed the animal prior to slaughter. So all of those were in the concerns when the CEOs were saying that we have our food at risk because they don't want to see these farmers go under, and they want to be able to continue to process the meat. The other thing we like to remind everyone is that the CDC has kind of verified that the virus does not transfer to the product. So it's not like if someone were sick in a plant that if you bought any of that beef, pork, or chicken, you could catch the virus through eating the product. It does not transfer that way. It does transfer from human to human, but it does not transfer from human to the product. So with that, Jan, I think I've covered the main issues that we've covered on the FMI call. If you want me to answer questions now or hang on and I can, answer them later, let me know.
We do want to thank you very much, Rick, and we do want to go ahead and open for questions. So Rebecca, go ahead, and I want to note that on our website under New This Week, we have posted the FMI grocery trends. So the document is excellent that Rick referred to, and then he just sent me the link on the webinar. We'll go ahead and get that posted also. I felt it was really important for you all to get an update because I've already had 2 phone calls from media on this very topic, and so they're covering it. In fact, I think the interview will be on channel 13 at 4 o'clock, one of them. So as media covers this topic, your customers are going to be asking questions. So hey, Rebecca, could you mute whoever did not put their telephone on?
Yeah, so as I'm going down the list, less than half of you are muted on your own end, so I'm having to go back and mute you if there's background noise. So, take a moment to check that you're muted, you're self-muted as well as muted by an organizer, and that will kind of help keep us on track here.
So let's see what kind of questions we might have for Rick here. Yeah, you're right. People aren't muting like we asked them to.
Yeah, no, it's there's a lot of green here as I'm going down the list.
Okay. So do we have any questions for people or in the chat box? Feel free to go in the chat box if you aren't no?
Unmuted.
I don't think so, Rick. You were so thorough.
Well, good. If there's anything that comes up and you want to forward it to me, Jan, feel free. I'll be more than happy to reply so that your members have a full understanding. The president will be issuing an executive order. We have not read the executive order. It is the hope that the executive order will preempt any local rules of keeping the plants closed, but still reinforce that plant must maintain the CDC guidelines for manufacturing. So that's the goal.
Okay, let's do a last call. Are there any questions? Anybody had a hard time getting unmuted and have a question for Rick?
Yep, everyone is now unmuted on my end. So if anyone has a question who tried, they should be able to talk now.
It looks like there is a question in our question box. Can you see that, Rebecca?
Yeah, I just pulled it. Yep, we do
We
have a
have
few.
multiple.
Why is the media calling out the meat plants when so many other grocery center store food plants have had to shut down due to the same employee issues? We don't hear about these as much as the meat shortages.
Yeah, I can only speculate. I will tell you that when this virus first started to hit, I would say retailers were in the hot zone for media. Media was in grocery stores. They were looking at the fact that our shelves were empty, our departments were empty. There was no toilet paper, there was no, meat, and we became all of a sudden, can we keep up with the demand? And it was very interesting information that they felt they needed to report on. As the story has evolved, it's starting to move into manufacturing. And so I think right now that has been the bright spot for the media. And then you have the CEOs that have simply said, this can interrupt the food supply. So when you have CEOs of some of the major meat processing saying that it has the capability of interrupting the meat supply, what they have in mind when they say that is that this could put farmers out of business. And if farmers go out of business long term, we're going to have a problem. So it's their way of making sure that everyone understands the implication of closing these plants. I think that makes for interesting media. We all have had to deal with media, and we know that there is what they report, and there is probably additional information to every story. And so I kind of take the approach that when I listen to the media, I kind of think of, okay, that's one aspect of it, but there's more story to it. This has really caught their imagination. So I've seen all weekend long information on this. And then it was prompted by Tyson's CEO posting a letter in the major newspapers on Monday morning, which then even caught more media attention and began to report it. On the Today Show this morning, there was a piece, and I can send the link to that piece, but they finished the segment by quoting not only FMI, the Food Industry Association, but others by saying, at this point, we don't see retailers not having supply. So I thought that was one of the more responsible reporting, because at the end of the whole piece, they did confirm that there is meat. It just not maybe everything you're looking for.
Okay, we're going to have to shorten the questions and answers here because we do have somebody else coming on at 3. So go ahead, Rebecca, with Nick's question.
Do you anticipate consumers will be reacting to the media's depiction of this issue?
Short answer is yes. We're seeing it already. The consumers are very frightened, and they're going to start probably overbuying again.
Do you know if there is a specific sector, beef, chicken, or pork, which is affected more?
I would say that if you look at the shelves, you're going to see commodities that have the lower price points being affected the most.
Okay. We try to stay a few steps ahead on these shortages. Some haven't materialized. How do we know?
I always, I'm a former retailer myself, so I always say that is a conversation for you to have with your supply chain. And if you're pulling from a wholesaler, then that you need them to get their supply chain on the phone to really get a full understanding of where the gaps are going to be and what their plan is to keep you in stock.
Was there any discussion about costs? We are seeing significant increases.
There has not been discussion of costs. What we have seen is there's a perception by the public that prices went up, but what we've seen is that's not really happened. It's just you don't see as many items on sale. Retailers are starting not to promote that category because they're trying to maintain inventory as opposed to sell out of inventory. But I have not seen any information on pricing, and I'd probably deflect that kind of question anyhow. We try to stay out of pricing discussions on calls like this.
Is prepackaged product more affected than primals?
Yeah, I'm assuming you're referring to case ready. So case ready product has been more impacted. Absolutely.
Have you heard of any retailers making special preparations in anticipation of another demand shock in this category?
I have not been privy to, I think everyone's making plans and they're working with their supply chain partners, but they have not shared that with me specifically.
What do you expect to happen with produce supply? Seems like there could be a bigger issue in that segment.
Actually, I think what produce is going to be facing right now is a labor shortage. They are going to allow H-2A workers to come into the country. They're going to test them. But I think we're getting into a harvest season coming up with soft fruit and things of that nature. So they're going to be into a labor issue. But they have enough product planted and enough ready to harvest. As a matter of fact, with the food service side of it going kind of out of business, they probably have more product than they need. And we've seen some reports of food waste.
That was the end of our questions in the question box. So if there are no more questions in the calls.
That was great. Those were great questions and great response. And thank you so much, Rick. We really
Sounds
appreciate you.
I'm going to drop out and have a great day. And again, all of you stay safe and thank you for all you're doing. We really appreciate everybody on the front lines. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Bye-bye. We're going to jump now on the agenda over to Kat to talk about some federal legislation that we are working on. We'll cover a couple areas, and we do have Mark again from SBA just to do a really quick update since second package of funding came through. So, Kat, can you go ahead and talk about federal legislation?
Just so
yes.
Sorry, this is Rebecca. Just so you know, Jan, Mark has joined us. He's here.
Okay, great, super.
Okay, I'll make this really quick since I like to be short and sweet. Hi everyone, I'm Kat Holm, Washington Food Industries Legislative Director and Legal Counsel. Today I want to update you on two federal proposals. It is important to note that neither of these are bills, but more ideas and that we hope will be provisions that will be included in the next COVID-19 package or another package. The first federal legislation is tax relief for workers. You should have received an action alert from me this morning, and all of our national organizations are asking for federal tax relief for the DHS designated critical infrastructure workers, which includes grocery store, convenience store workers, and others of the food supply chain. As I stated earlier, this isn't a particular bill, but more so asking for support for the idea that critical infrastructure workers should receive tax relief while they're on the front lines.
Kat, I'm sorry, I got to jump in here because we do have the bill number now.
Oh, you do? Okay.
It's HR 6567, which is called the Grocers Act, and a Republican and Democrat out of Pennsylvania are the leads on it. So we'll have to send out a correction on the what was sent out today. That's the bill we're focused on right now, and it's for tax relief from February 15th to June 15th. But Mitt Romney is saying he's going to introduce a bill that's even more generous, but we've not seen anything. So sorry,
right,
Kat.
and I was actually going to get to that. So you have that bill, which is the grocery bill, but our national organizations are focusing on the other idea, which is for the DHS designated critical infrastructure workers. 65, 67 is only for grocery and convenience store workers, so it's really narrow. On a good note is that either way, no matter which bill, we are included. And for the DHS bill, what they're asking for is federal income tax relief up to $89,000 per month of pay during the COVID-19 crisis, and federal payroll tax deductions for these individuals up to the first $50,000 of their income to ensure a tax benefit for workers who do not currently owe income tax. So as Jan said, there's a couple of these ideas going. We have one that is solely for grocery and convenience store workers, which is 67, and then one which is a little bit more, it's all essential businesses. So there's that idea. And then the second federal legislation is liability protection for essential businesses. This legislation would provide for liability protection for retailers and other essential businesses from civil suits alleging that employees or customers were exposed to COVID-19. The liability protection is only for businesses who are not grossly negligent, which we hope would never include any of our companies. Currently, Republicans have indicated support for the draft legislation, which is actually coming from our national partner, the National Association of Convenience Stores. We will be sending out another action alert, hopefully by the end of the week, maybe Monday, asking you to contact your congressional representatives and senators to support this provision. Does anyone have any questions about either of these federal legislation provisions?
And people are still able to unmute themselves. So if anyone has any question, you should be able to ask it.
Okay. Thanks,
All
Kat.
right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, Tammy, will you introduce yourself and our guest?
Yeah, thank you, Jan. Hi, this is Tammy Hetrick. I'm the Vice President for the Washington Food Industry Association. And I would like to welcome Mark Costello. He's the Deputy District Director of the Seattle District Office for the U.S. Small Business Administration. I want to start by thanking him. He has been so great to work with and to help our members. Everyone I've referred to has just given me excellent feedback on how he's been able to assist them. So with that, Mark, I want to thank you and welcome you to give us an update on what's happening.
Great. Hi. Can you guys hear me okay?
Excellent.
Perfect.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. Great. Well, thanks so much for the opportunity to just provide a quick update on the SBA funding programs that have now been sort of in some state of play for the last month or so. So right now the big activity is around and related to the sort of second iteration of the CARES Act that was signed just less than a week ago. This stuff happened so fast. And what happened there is that legislation provided for another approximately $360 billion in funding for small businesses through two specific SBA programs. And those programs are the Paycheck Protection Program, as well as our Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. And I think we've probably talked a little bit about these before, kind of what the intent is, how the programs generally work, how you guys would possibly access funding. So I want to just kind of maybe for a minute talk about what is happening right now and what a business owner can do right now if they believe that they want to apply for one of these programs, think that they might be an appropriate fit for the business in providing some relief during this challenging economic interruption. So the probably top line topic is the Paycheck Protection Program. And this is the one that in the last few weeks has received a variety of different kinds of coverage in the media. Some of it favorable, some of it maybe not so favorable because of some of the organizations or businesses that have received approved funding. But the bottom line is that the money that was allocated in the first CARES Act went out the door very quickly. It was about $343 billion. There were about 1.6 loans approved, 1.6 million loans approved in that first round of funding. So here we started the second round of funding just yesterday. And as I said, a total of about 350 or 60 billion was allocated back to the small businesses through the two different SBA programs. In this case, right now, we were allocated an additional 310 billion to fund the second round of the Paycheck Protection Program. So what does that mean for you guys? If you have not applied for this program and you feel like the opportunity to have money to pay your employees over the next 8 weeks would be beneficial, this very well could be something worth taking a look at. As of right now, we're probably going to be looking at maybe $80 billion having been lent by the end of today. But what that means is there's still a considerable amount of money left in that allocation for the Paycheck Protection Program. So if you have not made application for this, it's a rather simple process. The key is to identify a lending institution that is in fact offering paycheck protection loans, and there are a lot of them. What we typically are recommending is that people start with their bank of account, and if that organization or institution is not participating in the program, there are other options out there. Here in the state of Washington, we've certainly compiled a short list of local lenders that are taking Paycheck Protection Program applications. Just off the top of my head, I'm going to throw out a couple of names for you guys. Seattle Bank, Coastal Community Bank, Washington Federal, Washington Trust are all actively participating in the program. There's a community bank over in Paulsbo called Liberty Bay Bank that would also be willing and able to take applications from customers that or from businesses that might not be existing customers. The key here is that if the lender is offering the program, you're most likely going to be able to access it directly through their website. The application process is quite brief, and so what I would recommend is that you would go out and take a look at some of those lenders, if not your bank of account, and make application. The bottom line is what you're going to have is an opportunity to get funding for essentially eight weeks of payroll. And that funding is going to be based on an average payroll calculation from typically 2019. But within the product itself is a little bit of cushion that would allow you to have additional funding to cover some operating expenses for things like rent, utilities, and potentially interest on existing indebtedness. The maximum loan amount available under the program is actually rather large. It can go up to $10 million. There's no minimum loan amount. And the program can be a fit for businesses that run the gamut from having as many as 500 employees to as few as simply being a sole proprietor self-employed. There's an opportunity for relief for anybody in between that. And the idea is that this is all potentially forgivable debt. So while these are technically loans, what you're going to have is an opportunity to ultimately have an accounting with the lender to demonstrate how you use the loan proceeds. And if at least 75% of those proceeds were used for payroll related expenses, you're going to have an opportunity to have the debt forgiven. So ultimately the driver here is to allow for employee retention, employee rehiring, keeping the workforce together in cases maybe where folks have had to lay people off. This is an opportunity for you to bring them back and start to the process, hopefully, of coordinating a re-engagement into the economy as a small business, in particular for those that have been forced to shut down. So right now is the time to be looking at that if you think it would be a fit, if you think that the idea of covering your payroll costs for a couple of months would be beneficial. And keep in mind that if you meet the basic requirements of proportionate use of the funds, that those dollars can be converted basically to forgivable debt. And understand that the program is broadly available. So most of the lenders out in our area, for sure, as well as the large national banks, are participating in the program. But I think the best place to start is going to be with your bank of account, whoever it is that you do your checking with, you have maybe loans with, you have your other accounts with. That's probably a great place to start. But do understand that there are a variety of different other lenders out there that would be willing to offer this program to you guys. There are no fees associated with it. If it does ultimately turn out to be debt, in other words, you maybe don't hit the requirement of the 75% utilization for payroll, the portion that is debt would be a 1% loan payable over 2 years. So with that, you guys, that's the primary deal right now as far as kind of the hot topic. We did get additional funding, as I mentioned, for our economic injury disaster loan program, which was the first tool that SBA was able to make available. And the status of that program right now is we apparently had millions of applications for the program. And at a certain point in time here over the last week or so, when we ran out of funding for the original Paycheck Protection Program, we also ran out of funding for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. What's happening right now is that those applications for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan that are in process are continuing to be processed now in the order received, utilizing this new round of funding of 50 billion or so, or I think it might even be 60 billion. Keep in mind too that those folks that have submitted applications for the program are also receiving what we call a quick cash advance based on the number of employees up to $10,000. And that is, the money is going out on those. I think there've been 750,000 cash advances done around the country for $3 or $4 billion. There've probably been about 8 billion in approvals of the economic injury disaster loans, but there's a long list of applications to work through, and hopefully this new money that was allocated as part of this second funding is going to make a difference and allow us to dig into that backlog significantly. So, hey, with that, let me go back to you guys and see if anybody has any questions.
You know, Mark, we're really short on time, so what I'm going to ask my members to do here is contact Tammy if they've got questions.
Perfect.
contact information, because we still
Yeah.
have a lot of territory to cover on this.
Absolutely, you
Okay.
guys. Yeah. Forward any questions that I can assist with, and I will ponder them and give you some kind of the best response I possibly can. So
You're super, and thanks for all the help
Okay.
you've been giving our
Okay.
members. We appreciate
Okay.
you.
You
Okay.
Yes,
bet.
thank
Hey,
you.
you guys keep up the good work. Thank you.
Hey.
You take care. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so now we're going to jump in real quick to our kind of potpourri of new ideas and suggestions and things that have popped up. And the first one I want to introduce is Kevin Weatherall with the markets, and he is the first of our members that I've heard about installing traffic counters. So I asked him just to review that with y'all today for a new idea. Are you unmuted,
Yep.
Kevin? Okay, there you are. Yep.
Okay, well, on the new this week, it's the second link posted called Safe Count, the product that we're going with. We don't have it yet. I spent an afternoon Googling for store traffic count systems, and there's a wide variety, and they're pretty rich and not really applicable for what I was looking for. A lot of those systems are designed for small retail footprints, and they want to also track, when a salesperson would engage a customer, how long it takes, and there's a lot of analytics that come with that kind of a program. This one that's sold by IRI SIS, they're a UK company, is pretty basic. It's a system that works for both 1 and 2 entry locations. It's a basic counter, and it will count an active live count of how many entries and exits to a net amount. And then there's two screen options. One is a screen that customers can see when they come in. I'm not sure we're going to use that. But the other is to a tablet. We're putting together what we call a traffic manager's check stand, and that tablet will show a live count of how many customers are in your store. You can set that count threshold to a maximum at whatever level you'd like, and so as that count stays below that threshold, the screen shows how many people are in the store, and it's a green screen that says safe. And then as it approaches your maximum, the screen color will change to a yellow. And then if you exceed that maximum, it goes to a red. That I felt like in the case that jurisdictions mandated that you were only allowed to have X number of people according to what your maximum occupancy level was, that would have saved me from having to have someone stand at the door and count in and out. I've run calculations, and I think we're pretty good as far as our threshold goes. There's really 3 audiences for this. One is customers who are concerned about how can you maintain a safe distance in some of these stores that are so packed. 2, your team members who are also concerned about the same thing. And 3, health departments or whatever, regulatory, fire departments, whoever's going to be out policing those sort of things if it happens. The system is pretty affordable. We're installing it ourselves. It's a UK company, so we had to do a wire transfer to get them on the first round. After that, we've established credit and we can order more systems. We're testing 2 stores, a single door store and a double door store. The product is en route, and I think we'd have it installed here in the next 10 days. Pretty simple. You need a power source. There's a router that it communicates to. That router sends the Wi-Fi data to the tablet that has the program. And single door system costs around $2,000. A double door system costs about $3,500. We think will be somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 per install. But I think this is going to be life for a while. And this will be a good system for us to have an actual amount count on an ongoing basis in our stores. It also allows you to put a threshold for employees and that sort of thing. It's been around for a long time. It is designed for this purpose. And from what I looked at, it was a pretty reasonably priced, spot-on system for what we're looking for. That's what I have.
Thanks very much, Kevin. And after you get that installed and use it for a few days or so, we might ask you back for an update on that. So thanks a lot. So now we're going to do a rapid fire here with the staff. Governors, first I'll say the governor's mandate on masks. So we got a phone call back on late Friday afternoon regarding our response to the governor's proposal that he wanted to mandate masks on our stores and customers, and our stores to enforce the customers. And so we were told our letter had quite an impact and that the governor was going to have a meeting with staff today to make a final decision. Apparently that has not been finalized because the staff knew I really wanted to hear from them before our 2:30 call if the meeting was finalized. So we'll be, if you'll hear from us if he mandates masks. If he doesn't, you won't hear from us. Tammy, go.
Okay, just want to give you a quick update. DOSH has issued some new directives on safety and health, and so we have posted that to the website. Also, I am working with L&I to have some safety guidance for mask usage, even if it isn't a requirement. If you have employees who are voluntarily wearing masks, L&I's guidance is you need to provide them with proper training or knowledge. So I'm working with them to provide you just an overview of that. Other than that, just really some safety practices around COVID testing, and if someone tests positive, that you've got a process in place, and we've put that on our website so you have it. So all resources are available. Thank you.
And reminder that we do have draft language that is you're required to include in your APP dealing with COVID, and Earn West drafted that. That's on our site too. Where are our 400,000 masks that we're supposed to get? Oh, what a nightmare. We haven't got them yet. We did learn that those masks got diverted to other places. And as a result of learning about that diversion, we also learned that the governor has not designated our industry as tier 1. We always thought we were tier 1. He did not. And so this afternoon after our call, I will be requesting an industry meeting with the governor to talk about tier 1, because that puts us as a priority for masks, also puts us for priority for the COVID testing. So I know nothing more about the FEMA masks other than they say there's another 80,000 supposed to be delivered this week. So I apologize. And if you're in a community that you have to have the masks right away, you're going to have to go find a source. FEMA has got the site up. It's on our website where you can get all of the PPE type of things, but we're still working on that shipment. Fuel volatility, so you can continue selling your summer fuel. The deadline has been extended, so we have to do that every 20 days, but it has been renewed for 20 more days. SNAP, our state got approved yesterday or today for the increased SNAP benefits for May also. So it'll be the 3rd month that they're giving those significant increases on SNAP. Tammy, the DOSH inspections.
Yeah, that's kind of what I had covered, was
Okay.
the directive, it does indicate that there will be more DOSH inspections, and that's why we're putting all these materials out there for you, so you have them available.
Okay, I
And
wasn't sure if you had more.
If I may add one more thing, the city of Seattle has reached out to me and said they also have sources for masks. So if we are in a tough position, they're saying they have a lot of resources in the state.
We're still working on it, folks, and like 3-4 times a day, bugging the governor's office. So, and I am going to make this from a consumer perspective, as I've gone in and done my grocery shopping where the aisles are marked one way. They are marked one way when you very first enter the aisle. The other end of it in most stores so far are not marked at all. And my last shopping experience 3 days ago, there were more people going the wrong way than the right way. And I might make a suggestion that you look at putting a sign at both ends, or putting a great big red stop sign at the end where they're not supposed to be entering in. But the one-way lanes are very effective if consumers do it. But it is, I noticed, I found a hard time too when it wasn't marked at the beginning. Also like to say, on our website, we have posted I did a PSA on Channel 7's been running it, and I'm still getting text messages from people who have seen it. That is a thank you to our industry, thank you to our employees. And also we have put up a tips for shoppers. And it asks them to wear masks and stuff, and that is posted. I'm going to encourage our members to post on their websites and on their social media, both the PSA that is a thank you to the industry, so consumers remember what you're doing for them and remember to say thank you to your employees. And then also put the tips for shoppers up there. Of course, who knows what a news story is going to look like, but when I ended my interview with Channel 13, I said you could do us a huge favor if you would mention our tips for shoppers to help us do the right thing. And he said he was going to put our website on the end of his news reporting, and so we've got that right up front on our website. And I've asked the governor to mention the tips for shoppers when he's ever doing a press conference on the grocery industry. So now I want to jump quickly. I want you to do an online survey for us. We've got a number of questions we need to know and understand as we're working with policy people. So first question, so get your clicker out there. Do you have a procedure in place for screening employees for COVID-19? So that would be as they come in and report for the shift. Do you have a procedure? Please mark yes or no. This is important for us to know. Second question, do you have a procedure in place for taking employee temperatures before reporting into work or their shift? Yes or no? Next question, do you provide online shopping? And mark the one that best represents your store. Yes, you offered it before COVID-19. Yes, you implemented as a result of COVID, or no, you don't have online. Next question. Do you provide, oops. The next question is, do you provide curbside pickup? And again, mark the one that best fits your implementation of curbside pickup. And the final question, Do you provide delivery services? And mark the one that best represents when you did that, if you have it. These are important things for us to know as policymakers are coming to us and saying, would you support a mandate on this or, that? And we need to understand how our industry is responding to the COVID-19. And if you have any other input for us, Town and Country sent me a beautiful document that they have created that is their whole operational manual for dealing with COVID-19. And we would love to have any resources, tips, ideas. Last couple minutes, few minutes here. Do we have any questions in the question box for any of our staff?
Yeah, we did get a couple of new questions. One is, we are finding that some employees that we have offered their job back have said, no thanks, I will stay on unemployment. I make more money on unemployment. Oops, I just lost
Yeah,
it.
I did respond to that question, and I let them know if someone refuses a job, their benefits are supposed to stop. So I've reached out to ESD to find out how this information is supposed to be reported back. People don't get to just stay on this benefit for the entire time. It was to provide assistance during standby. So we will get information out to you on how that's supposed to be reported back. Thank you.
The other thing that goes along with that, and why we're strongly advocating federal legislation for tax holiday for your hardworking employees, is that we want to create an incentive for them to want to stay on the job. So that's why we feel that federal legislation is so very important. But Tammy's right. Hey, they're off UI if they say no. Okay, next question.
Have you had any municipalities limit the amount of customers in your stores? I guess that's a all-around question.
We have not been made aware of any municipality that has done that. We did have a couple problems with local departments of health and requiring things that were inconsistent with the state. And we had some pretty serious discussions, and those locals backed off. If there are any reports out there from anybody where you're getting inconsistencies from your local Department of Health or from the city or county, let us know if you would, please, because we can work on those things for you.
How many grocers are mandating masks in store now? PCC is starting this on Wednesday.
I am only aware of the ones that have been publicly announced, the big national chains, and not all of them, because I do know that their association also sent a letter to the governor opposing mandatory masks. We all support strong recommendations to wear masks, but as an association, they opposed it, even though they have 2 or 3 members, very large chains requiring masks. I know of nobody in the independent grocery industry, but that doesn't mean there isn't somebody. I mean, one of the problems we're having is getting masks.
Jan, this is Paul. We are mandating it.
You are?
We
okay.
are mandating it, yes, and we've been able to secure probably about 10,000 masks.
Great. Where did you get your masks?
Pardon me?
Where did you get those masks?
About 3 different suppliers.
Okay.
And then just so everyone knows, that is West Seattle Thriftway.
This is Kevin with the markets. We're starting tomorrow with masks being required. We just had so many customers complain about staff not wearing masks. And think it's the right thing to do. We gave all team members 3 masks. They're all washable. And we've had to contact the union about a few resistors, but we've gotten union support for giving the team members who don't want to wear masks the opportunity to work when they can truly social distance at off hours. And that seems to have overcome any objection we've had.
Another question.
Is there anybody else that wants to jump in before we go to the next question? Anybody else that? No? Okay, go ahead, Rebecca.
If they have a doctor recommending they stay home but not requiring it, and we are offering light duty away from dealing with the customer and they don't want to work, are they still eligible even if we paid them all their sick pay already?
They don't want to work because of exposure. I'm assuming that question is. It's not a worker comp injury when you refer to light duty. That's what was confusing to me. I'm assuming they're afraid of exposure, so they don't want to work.
Yes, that's what Ali said.
They also have a doctor's note saying that they should.
So Dosh did put something on their website about this, and there is guidance on workplace safety practices for essential activity workers who may be permitted to work following potential exposure. So there is some guidelines that LNI has posed on this that we'll have on our website for you.
But yeah, I think, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Jen, this is Don Stoltz. I'm pretty sure that if they have a doctor's note, if you go back to the very beginning, if they have a doctor's note that for whatever reason they have somebody in their household or they have their own issues, they are eligible to continue unemployment. They can make that statement if they have the doctor's note.
That's my understanding as well. We have 3 people in that position right now.
Yeah, I think, Ali, you were trying to say that it's recommending, not required, but I still think those fall within the same category.
Yeah, ESD is not going to question those claims.
Yeah.
But there is guidance on trying to keep them working if you wanted to.
On our website. Okay, any other questions?
If we take an employee's temperature, do we have to keep it as a medical record?
In fact, it is recommended that you do not keep a record. If you keep a record, you just put passed or failed, but not the temperature because of HIPAA. And that too is on our website, guidance on taking temperatures. In fact, there was a new document, I think came out this week or late last week, on taking temperatures.
Okay, what is the group's opinion about allowing reusable bags if the shoppers bag their own?
Well, Department of Health and was it FDA or CDC? I can't remember who, but CDC, we've been told not to allow reusable bags in the stores, even if they bag. Initially, they said, okay, as long as they bag themselves, but even our state Department of Health now has said following federal. So they're really telling us we should not let those reusable bags in at this time. I think the concern is they're not sure how much of the bacteria the virus is transmitted on these surfaces. So I would say after reading all the new updated documents that I would not allow people to bring reusable bags in, which is a tough deal, I know.
That's the end of the questions in the question box.
I actually see a couple more.
Oh, we went 5 minutes over, I was going to say.
Did you see the one about the temperature?
We already answered
We
that.
did that one. Yeah. Okay.
Never mind.
If you have any questions that you think of afterward, go ahead and shoot them over to me and I'll direct them over to the staff that are in charge of those certain areas. And we had requests for John Ross to return in a month, so we're going to try to get him scheduled again mid-May. If you have any other recommendations for guest speakers that could bring important information, please give us those suggestions too. But help us stay informed about what's going on in your stores, in your warehouses, because we're getting calls all day long from elected officials and the media asking us questions. So keep us informed on it. Have a great afternoon. We'll talk to you next Tuesday, if not before. Thank you. And thanks to the
Thank
staff
you.
for hard work too.